Growth Map Publishing presents Hook to Booked, the four-stage system that turns strangers into qualified, ready-to-buy clients. Written by Gabriel Ryan. Introduction. Why 99% of service businesses are one system away from never worrying about leads again. I stared at my phone in disbelief. "I can't believe we cleared $700,000, Cole texted me. I replied with two simple words, "Called it." "You did. Final number equals $772,350. Let's go," he shot back. I put the phone down and looked up at the ceiling of my home office. It worked. It totally freaking worked. The system we'd built together, this simple content framework, had just generated more revenue in 7 days than Cole's previous best launch by nearly 400%. But here's the thing that really got me. We didn't run fancy ads. We didn't hire expensive agencies. We didn't even build complicated funnels. We just followed one simple system that captured and held their attention. We spoke directly to his customers' hearts, and they opened their wallets. In that moment, I realized something that would change everything. 99% of service businesses are just one simple system away from a massive breakthrough. But as with most discoveries, getting to that point wasn't a straight line. 6 months earlier, everything was falling apart. It was my daughter's 6th birthday, and I was supposed to be celebrating with her at Build-A-Bear, something she'd been talking about for months. Instead, I was sitting in the passenger seat of our minivan in the mall parking lot, my phone buzzing non-stop with urgent messages from my business partner. "Can you drive?" I asked my wife, not looking up from my screen. "I need to handle this right now." She glanced over at me with that look. You know the one I'm talking about. The kind that says more than words ever could, especially when little ears are listening in the back seat. Our 4 kids were all buckled in, excited to celebrate their sister's big day. But I was drowning. "Just give me a couple minutes," I told my wife as she parked. "I'll be right in." As entrepreneurs, we're used to dealing with fires, but not all problems are created equal. When I'm working with my team, I'm constantly training them to sort and filter the various problems we face. Teaching them how to decide what's a priority and what's not is my top priority. Is it a dumpster fire? Those usually burn themselves out if you leave them alone. Or is it a kitchen fire? Those need immediate attention because they can take down the entire house. This one, the problem that showed up on my daughter's 6th birthday, the one that had been slowly burning just below the surface for months, instantly turned into a full-blown kitchen fire, and it was about to burn down everything I'd worked for. I called my friend Matt, the only person I could trust to give it to me straight. "I think I need to get out," I told him, pacing behind our van. "This thing is costing me my peace. It's costing me my family." "What does your gut tell you?" he asked. "That I should have left months ago." "Then you have your answer." I hung up, took a deep breath, and walked into Build-A-Bear. My wife was helping our daughter pick an outfit for her birthday bear when I stepped into the store. "We're leaving," I whispered to her. "Today." She looked up at me, and tears immediately filled her eyes. "I'm so happy," she said, giving me the tightest hug I'd felt since our first dance, the day of our wedding. In that moment, I knew I'd made the right choice. Over the next 90 days, we moved our family of 6 from Bend, Oregon, to Las Vegas, Nevada, back to Bend, Oregon, and finally to Nashville, Tennessee. That wasn't the plan, but I'd learned something important. If something isn't worth the next 10 years of your life, it's not worth 10 minutes of your attention. And if I'm being honest, even though the circumstances were severe, the fresh start was exciting at first. New city, new opportunities, endless possibilities. But sometimes, having too many options can be paralyzing. So I did what felt right. I got still. I spent months journaling, hiking, and reflecting on what had gone wrong and what I wanted to build next. I'd had success before, spent a decade as a professional photographer working with incredible clients around the world, helped scale a marketing agency to $25 million annually, launched a software company to over $140,000 monthly recurring revenue. But now I was starting over, and honestly, I was scared. I had all this experience, all these skills, but I wasn't sure how to package it into something new, something that would actually help people instead of just making money. Then I went on a guy's trip to Yosemite National Park, and everything changed. That's where I met Cole. Cole had a successful consulting business and was dealing with the exact same frustrations I'd helped solve with my previous companies. We were sitting around a fire pit after a long day hiking Half Dome when he started telling me about his marketing woes. "I've done a few million in revenue," he said, "but I feel like I'm hitting a ceiling. I've tried agencies, bought programs, hired experts, have had some success here and there, but nothing that really moves the needle like when I first started." Something in his story felt familiar. "What if the problem isn't your offer?" I asked. "What if it's just how you're talking about it?" His eyes lit up. "What do you mean?" That conversation led to Cole hiring me to help with his next launch. Here's what Cole had going for him: proven offer, happy clients, amazing testimonials, and a track record of success. But he was stuck in the same trap most service businesses fall into: trying to do everything instead of mastering one thing. We decided to focus on one area: short-form videos. Cole was already posting a single short video to Instagram every day, and he was actually pretty good at it. So instead of starting from scratch, we doubled down on what was already working. Every week, I'd meet with Cole and his team to plan his content strategy. What videos would he post to his followers? What would he send via email, via text message blast? What would he share in his community? And ultimately, what would we use for paid ads? We put all our focus on creating a system of videos that spoke directly to the hearts and beliefs of his ideal customers. 7 days later, my phone lit up with that text from Cole. Cole and his team were up late, watching the final hours tick down on the deadline for their launch. As for me, I had already turned in for bed. The next morning started like most of my days: coffee, reading 10+ pages of a book, breaking a sweat with my morning workout, #sweat every day. After toweling off and getting dressed, I checked my phone for the first time. I'll never forget the moment I saw those numbers. We hadn't just improved his launch results, we had completely transformed his business. $772,350 in sales. Nearly 4 times his previous best launch. All because we'd focused on one simple thing: a systematic approach to creating content that connected with his audience's deepest needs and desires. That's when it hit me like a lightning bolt. Most service business owners are spinning their wheels, bouncing between agencies and lead vendors, trying everything and mastering nothing. They post inconsistently, burn out quickly, and get discouraged when they don't see immediate results. But there's a timeless framework, one that's been around since the beginning of storytelling itself, that can turn even the most hesitant, skeptical prospects into eager buyers. It's the same framework that every blockbuster movie follows. The same framework that built empires and launched movements. And it's the same framework that took Cole from a $200,000 launch to more than $772,000 in sales in just a few months. In this book, I'm going to share that exact system with you. The hook-to-booked blueprint that turns strangers into fans and fans into qualified, ready-to-buy clients. Because here's what I've learned. You don't need more leads. You don't need more followers. You don't need more complicated funnels or expensive agencies. You just need the right system. And by the time you finish reading this book, you'll have everything you need to build that system for your own business. Let's get started. Part 1. The foundation. A system is only as strong as its weakest link. Chapter 1. The lead generation lie that's bankrupting service businesses. Why chasing more leads is keeping you broke, and what to do instead. The 50,000 lead traffic boost that generated zero sales. What if I told you that 50,000 qualified prospects visited a company's online store every month and the owner still went broke? You'd probably think I was lying. But that's exactly what happened to one of my business partner's old clients before we started working together. And it perfectly illustrates the biggest lie destroying service businesses today. The assembly line revolution. In 1913, Henry Ford did something that changed the world forever. But it wasn't what most people think. Everyone assumes Ford's genius was inventing the car or even the assembly line itself. They're wrong. Ford didn't invent the automobile. He perfected the system that made cars affordable and scalable. Ford's breakthrough was understanding that efficiency came not from getting more parts, but from fixing the constraint in production flow. Before Ford, car manufacturing was chaos. Cars were made by hand, much like custom furniture. Skilled craftsmen would build entire automobiles by hand, one at a time. It took forever, cost a fortune, and only rich people could afford cars. Ford looked at this broken system and asked a different question. Instead of, how do we build cars faster? He asked, what's preventing us from building cars faster? The answer wasn't more parts or more workers. It was the system itself. So Ford redesigned everything. He broke car manufacturing into simple, repeatable steps. He positioned workers strategically along a moving assembly line. He identified and eliminated every bottleneck that slowed production. The result? Ford could turn raw materials into finished Model Ts faster and cheaper than anyone else in the world. By 1927, Ford had sold over 15 million Model Ts and transformed America from an agricultural society into an industrial powerhouse. All because he focused on the system, not just the inputs. A $50,000 traffic disaster. Which brings me back to that client I mentioned. They sold lancets, those tiny needles diabetics use to test blood sugar. Great product, massive market, obvious need. When they hired my partner's company, their website was getting maybe 5,000 visitors per month, at best. We just need more traffic, the owner shared. If we can get more diabetics to our site, we'll make more sales. Classic thinking, right? More leads equals more sales. So the team went to work, researched what diabetics cared about, what they were searching, what sort of problems they were looking to solve. And the team discovered some low-hanging fruit with a ton of search traffic every month and little competition, which meant it would be easier to climb the ranks in Google. It turned out diabetics were asking all kinds of questions online about, can I eat peanut butter if I'm diabetic? What can a diabetic eat at Taco Bell? Best recipes for diabetics? Within 9 months, we had more than 50,000 unique visitors hitting their website every month. 10 times more traffic than when the project started. The owner should have been celebrating. Instead, he was furious, because despite all that traffic, revenue barely moved. The team had solved the traffic problem, but completely ignored the conversion system. To be fair, they were not asked to focus any effort on the conversion system. Their website looked nice, but it didn't give visitors a compelling reason to buy. No clear value proposition. No way to capture contact information, or reason for a visitor to provide it. No follow-up system for people who weren't ready to purchase immediately. We had poured 50,000 qualified prospects into a leaky bucket, and like Henry Ford's competitors, they were focused on the wrong constraint. The $2 million insurance agent lesson. I worked with an insurance agent named Marcus who was spending $6,000 per month on leads from online vendors. "I'm getting plenty of leads," he told me, "but my closing rate is terrible. Maybe I need better leads." Classic constraint misdiagnosis. The real problem wasn't lead quality, it was his follow-up system. Marcus was trying to call leads during business hours while juggling client meetings, policy reviews, and administrative work. By the time he reached most prospects, they'd already been contacted by 3 to 4 competitors. Once we fixed his speed-to-lead system and implemented proper nurture sequences, his closing rate doubled without changing a single lead source. Same leads, better system. $2 million more in annual premiums written. The theory of constraints in your business. Here's why most service business owners stay stuck. They don't understand one of the most important philosophies in business. Theory of constraints. A system is only as strong as its weakest link. You can have the best advertising in the world, but if your follow-up system is broken, you'll waste every dollar. You can be amazing at converting leads to sales, but if you can't attract enough prospects, you'll starve. You can create incredible content, but if it doesn't move people to take action, you're just entertainment. This is why so many service businesses live on the revenue roller coaster. Great month, terrible month, okay month, disaster month. They keep trying to solve their sales problem by pouring more leads into a broken system. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. The solution isn't a bigger hose, it's fixing the holes. The 2 systems every business needs. If you dive into any system, you'll always see that it is made up of smaller systems. Your body is a system, and if you want to live a good long life, you must take care of it. But if you dive into the system that is your body, you'll discover a whole bunch of systems that are critical to your health and vitality. Your cardiovascular system, heart, blood vessels. Your respiratory system, mouth, nose, lungs, just to name a couple. Likewise, your business is a system. And that system is made up of a bunch of important subsystems that you must take care of if you want your business to create lots of cash and help lots of clients. You and I both know how important marketing is to your business. So, wouldn't it be great if you knew the building blocks of an effective marketing system? Fortunately, the blueprint is quite simple. Every successful marketing system consists of exactly 2 subsystems working in harmony. Your 2-part marketing system. 1. Attraction system. How you get in front of the right people with the right message at the right time. 2. Conversion system. How you get those people to raise their hand and engage with you and your company. Most service businesses fail because they're missing something in one or both subsystems. They either get great at attracting attention but can't convert it into leads, or they're excellent at converting but can't attract enough prospects in the first place. Success requires mastering both subsystems together. which is exactly what the hook-to-booked blueprint trademark accomplishes by systematically moving prospects from strangers to engaged leads ready to buy. The foundation principle. Here's the truth that will transform your business. You don't need more leads. You need more qualified conversations. This isn't just about marketing. It's about understanding that sustainable growth comes from systems, not tactics, from fixing constraints, not adding inputs, from creating qualified prospects who are primed and ready to buy, not just collecting more names in your database. What comes next? In the following chapters, we'll build your hook-to-booked system step by step. You'll learn exactly how to identify your biggest constraint, how to create a system that attracts the right attention and converts it into engagement, how to turn strangers into followers, followers into true believers, and true believers into qualified prospects who are eager to work with you. But first, you had to understand this fundamental truth. The lie that's been bankrupting service businesses isn't that they need better products or lower prices. It's that they need more leads, which they don't. They need better systems, and that's exactly what we're going to build together. Chapter 2. The Buyer's Tipping Point. Why timing beats everything. How to be top of mind when your prospect's pain peaks. When 106 million people made the same decision at once. July 20th, 1969, 10:56 p.m. Eastern Time. Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon's surface, and 106 million Americans, nearly 60% of the entire US population, watched it happen live on television. All at the exact same moment. This wasn't just history being made. It was the last time an entire generation would share the same experience simultaneously, and it reveals everything about why your best prospects are slipping through your fingers. The death of captive audiences. Back in 1969, if you wanted to reach people, it was simple. There were 3 TV networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS. That's it. No cable, no streaming, no smartphones buzzing with notifications every 12 seconds. If you wanted to advertise your business, you bought a 30-second spot during the Ed Sullivan Show, and boom, you had the attention of 60 million people. You could literally force yourself to be top of mind. Fast forward to today, and the average person sees over 5,000 advertisements per day. We consume 34 gigabytes of information daily, enough to crash a laptop from the 1990s. And we're being pulled in what feels like 847 different directions every waking moment. Slight exaggeration, maybe, but you get the point. The captive audience is dead, and with it died the old way of doing business. The Tony Robbins moment. Which brings me to something I witnessed at a Tony Robbins event that changed how I think about marketing forever. Tony was scanning the crowd of 8,000 people when he spotted a woman in the 3rd row, tears streaming down her face. He called her to stand up from her seat. "What's going on?" he asked. "I just got served divorce papers," she sobbed. "Lost my job last week. Just feel completely broken." The audience was silent. Tony nodded, his eyes filled with compassion. He took a moment before he spoke, and in an instant, it felt like they were the only 2 people in the room. You could hear a pin drop. "Have you heard of me before today?" "Yes," she said. "I've read your books, listened to your podcasts, watched your videos. For years. And why are you here now? Why didn't you take action before? What's different about today?" She looked up at him with raw honesty. "Because today, I couldn't take the pain anymore. I finally had to do something about it. 7,999 people nodded in agreement. Not because her story was unique, not because she was brave enough to confront her pain and step forward anyway, though that was a critical ingredient to their agreement, but because every single person seated in that arena recognized themselves in that woman in that moment. They all felt exactly the same way. The universal law of pain points. Here's what that woman taught me about human behavior. That moment wasn't about logic. It wasn't about persuasion. It wasn't about overcoming objections. It was about timing. Tony just happened to be the one in front of her when her pain peaked. And because she already trusted him, because he'd been consistently showing up in her world, she acted. This is what I call the buyer's tipping point principle. Buyer's tipping point. People buy when their pain peaks, from whoever is top of mind and trusted. It doesn't matter if you have the best solution. It doesn't matter if you're cheaper, faster, or more qualified. If you're not top of mind and trusted when their tipping point hits, you lose to someone who is, even if your solution is objectively better. The emergency room versus life insurance problem. Some businesses have it easy. If you're a tow truck driver, you never have to convince people their pain is unbearable. When someone's car breaks down on the interstate at 11 p.m., they're not comparison shopping. They're grabbing the first trusted hand they can find. But what if you sell life insurance, or dog training, or any service where the pain isn't immediately obvious? Your prospects might be bleeding internally for months before they realize they need help. Your job becomes helping them recognize their own tipping point before it's too late, not through manipulation, but by clarifying their problem better than they can articulate it themselves. And before you're done with this book, I'll show you exactly how to remain top of mind like the young woman in the audience at Tony's event. In step 3 of the Hook to Booked process, you'll learn how to apply the help, how to become the obvious choice before they're ready to buy. But before we get there are a few things we need to cover so that you've got a clear plan for capturing the attention of your audience in the first place. Because if you can't capture their attention, you'll never be top of mind when their pain peaks. The modern attention battlefield. Here's the challenge we face today. In 1969, you could buy attention. Plaster your message across 3 TV networks, and millions of people had no choice but to see it. Today, attention can't be bought. It must be earned. Even when you're running paid ads, you've got to earn the click. You've got to stop the scroll. Because even with paid ads, the algorithm only rewards the businesses that can keep their users engaged. Every day, every piece of content, every interaction. Your prospects are living in a world with infinite options and zero patience. They're constantly being marketed to, constantly searching, constantly distracted. The moment their pain peaks and they're ready to buy, they don't have time to research every option. They grab the nearest trusted hand. The question is, will that be you? The buyer's tipping point. The businesses that thrive in this new reality understand one fundamental truth. You can't choose when your prospect is ready to buy, but you can choose whether you're there when they are. This isn't about being pushy. It's about being present. It's about consistently showing up in your prospect's world with helpful, valuable content that positions you as the trusted expert. So when their pain finally peaks, when they hit their personal rock bottom, you're not a stranger trying to sell them something. You're the obvious choice. Going pro. Here's what separates amateur service providers from true professionals. Amateurs rely on hustle and hope. They post when they remember, follow up when they have time, and wonder why their results are inconsistent. Professionals understand that credibility comes from reliability. Their prospects can count on valuable content, consistent communication, and professional follow-through. In other words, professional credibility requires professional systems. Think about the most successful entrepreneurs, service providers, and consultants you know. What do they all have in common? They show up consistently. They follow proven processes. They deliver predictable results. This isn't by accident. It's by design. Professional service providers understand that their personal brand is only as strong as the systems that support it. Sporadic posting and inconsistent follow-up don't build trust. They erode it. When your ideal client is ready to make a decision, they won't choose the person who might be there. They'll choose the professional who has demonstrated reliability through consistent, valuable engagement. What this means for your business. The buyer's tipping point changes everything about how you approach marketing. You can't just run ads when you need more clients. You can't just post on social media when you remember. You can't just send an email when you have something to sell. You need to be building trust and staying top of mind consistently, so you're positioned perfectly when your ideal prospect's pain peaks. In the next chapter, we'll talk about what happens when you find that perfect moment and why you have exactly 60 seconds to capitalize on it before the opportunity disappears forever. Because timing isn't just everything. Speed is everything too. Chapter 3. The 60-second window that makes or breaks your business. Why speed to lead determines who gets the deal and how to win every time. 5 minutes. That's how long you have. After that, your chances of winning the prospect drop by more than 80%. After an hour, you might as well delete their contact information. Yet the average service business takes 47 hours to respond to a new lead, which explains why one of Alex Hormozi's friends pays someone $80,000 a year to work just 10 minutes per day. And it's the smartest money he's ever spent. The most expensive phone call you'll never make. Alex was having coffee with a friend who runs a successful service business. They were talking about hiring and operational efficiency when his friend mentioned something that made Alex nearly spit out his drink. "I pay Sarah $80,000 a year," his friend said casually. "And what exactly does she do?" Alex asked. "She calls every lead back within 5 minutes." Alex leaned forward. "You must get a ton of leads to justify that kind of salary." "Actually, no. We get maybe 2 to 5 leads per day." Alex did the math in his head. 5 leads per day, maybe 2 minutes per call. That's 10 minutes of actual work. For $80,000 a year. "Are you insane?" Alex asked. His friend smiled. "Best investment I've ever made. That $80,000 salary pays for itself 10 times over." "How?" "Because the day I miss even one lead, the day I let one slip through the cracks because I was too busy to call back immediately, I lose a $15,000 client. And when I was handling it myself, I was missing at least 1 or 2 leads every week." The math was staggering. Missing just 2 leads per week cost him over $1.5 million annually. Paying Sarah $80,000 to prevent that? A no-brainer. The science of disappearing opportunities. Here's what most service business owners don't understand about lead response time. Every minute that passes after someone reaches out, your chances of conversion drop dramatically. Studies show that calling a lead within the first minute gives you a 391% higher chance of conversion compared to calling within the first hour. within 5 minutes, you're still 100 times more likely to connect than if you wait 30 minutes. After an hour, you might as well not call at all. But here's the part that will shock you. The average service business takes 47 hours to respond to a new lead. 47 hours. By then, your prospect has not only moved on, they've probably already hired your competitor. The Susie and Teddy breakthrough. Which brings me to Susie and Teddy, who run a dog training business. Susie is one of those business owners who wears 47 different hats. She's got a daughter in college, another child at home with special needs, and she's trying to run a business that actually helps people. Oh yeah. And Susie doesn't have just one business. She has two. In addition to working with families and their furry friends, she also manages the family business, a brick-and-mortar garden center that's been well established in their community for decades. Before working with us, Susie knew speed to lead was important. She did her best to get back to prospects quickly, but quickly meant 30 minutes if she was lucky, an hour if she was with another client. And weekends? Forget about it. Family has always been top priority for Susie, so everything waited until Monday morning. Susie was losing deals left and right, a slow but obvious leak in her marketing and sales, and she knew it. But what could she do? She couldn't be glued to her phone 24/7. She had a life, a family, other clients to serve. The breakthrough came when she installed a system that solved the speed-to-lead problem once and for all. Now every single lead that comes into her dog training business gets a response within 60 seconds. 24-17-35. No exceptions. Within 90 days of installing this system, Susie tripled her sales, from $20,000 per month to over $64,000, all because she stopped missing the window. The Midnight Epiphany. A few months after implementing the system, Susie called me with excitement in her voice. "You're not going to believe what just happened," she said. "2 people scheduled demos at 2 a.m. last night. They must have been browsing our site late, couldn't sleep, and decided to reach out. And here's the crazy part. I know for a fact that if it were just up to me to respond, they never would have scheduled. By the time I would have called them back at 8 or 9 a.m. the next day, they would have already moved on to someone else or probably just ignored my calls. But because our system responded instantly, they're both on my calendar for this week." That's when it hit me. This isn't just about business hours. Your prospects don't operate on your schedule. They operate on theirs. And their schedule might be 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. The emergency room principle. Think about this for a second. If you're having a heart attack, do you call the hospital and leave a voicemail? Do you send an email and wait for a response? Of course not. You call 911 and someone answers immediately, because in emergencies, every second counts. Here's the thing. When your prospect reaches out, it is an emergency to them. Their pain has finally peaked. They've hit their tipping point. They're ready to solve their problem right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. If you're not there to catch them in that moment, someone else will be. The foundation principle. Here's the truth that separates thriving businesses from struggling ones. Money loves speed. In the game of leads, speed beats everything, including price, quality, and experience. Your prospect isn't looking for the best solution when they reach out. They're looking for the fastest solution from someone they trust. If you can be both fast and trustworthy, you win. Every time. The 24/7, 365 solution. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but I can't be available 24/7 without sacrificing my personal life. You're absolutely right, and you don't have to be. The solution isn't working more hours. It's building a system that responds instantly even when you're sleeping, spending time with family, or serving other clients. Because automated systems create consistency at scale. Just like Susie's dog training business, the most successful professional service providers understand that consistency beats intensity. You can't personally respond to every lead within 60 seconds, but a well-designed system can, without losing the personal touch so important to your reputation. This is especially critical for insurance agents, financial advisors, and other professional service providers where trust and timing are everything. Your prospects don't care that it's 10 p.m. on a Sunday. Their pain peaks when it peaks. The businesses that capture these moments are the ones that have systems working for them around the clock. And it also doesn't mean you have to go hire and train someone just to call back your leads like Alex's friend. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's building a system that responds instantly even when you're sleeping, spending time with family, or serving other clients. A system that captures leads in their moment of peak pain and moves them toward a conversation with you, without you having to be glued to your phone, without sacrificing your reputation or your personal life. What this means for your business. Speed to lead isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It's table stakes. If you're not responding to leads within 60 seconds, you're not just losing individual deals. You're systematically bleeding revenue. Every day, every week, every month. The good news? This is completely fixable. And when you fix it, the results are immediate and dramatic. Just ask Susie, who tripled her revenue in 90 days, or Alex's friend, who turned an $80,000 investment into over $1.5 million in saved revenue. The question isn't whether you can afford to solve this problem. The question is whether you can afford not to. How much are you leaving on the table? In the next chapter, we'll dive into the psychology behind why this works so well and introduce you to a framework that's been proven to turn even the most skeptical prospects into eager buyers. Because speed gets you in the door, but story gets you the sale. Chapter 4. The Hollywood secret that sells everything. Why every blockbuster movie and successful business follows the same timeless story formula. The $2.8 billion blockbuster formula. What does Star Wars, Rocky, The Godfather, and Top Gun all have in common? They've generated over $2.8 billion combined at the box office. But that's not the real secret. The real secret is that if you opened any of their screenplays to page 27, you'd find the exact same thing happening. The hero meets their guide. Luke meets Yoda. Rocky meets Mickey. Michael Corleone meets his father. Maverick meets Charlie. Same page, same moment, same formula. And that formula doesn't just sell movie tickets. It sells everything. Story revealed. In 1997, a screenwriting teacher named Robert McKee published a book called Story that revealed Hollywood's biggest secret, the literal blueprint behind every major blockbuster since Casablanca. McKee had spent decades analyzing the most successful films in history, looking for patterns. What he discovered was that every major motion picture, regardless of genre, budget, or decade, followed the exact same three-act structure. Act 1, set up, pages 1 to 30, introduce the hero in their ordinary world, then hit them with an inciting incident that forces them into action. Act 2, confrontation, pages 30 to 90. The hero faces increasingly difficult obstacles while pursuing their goal, culminating in a crisis that seems impossible to overcome. Act 3. Resolution. Pages 90 to 120. The hero finds the strength to overcome the final obstacle and emerges transformed. But here's what McKee really discovered. These weren't arbitrary rules created by Hollywood executives. They were psychological principles hardwired into human nature. Stories that follow this formula feel right to us because they mirror how we actually experience change and growth in our own lives. Which is why this same formula that captivates audiences in darkened theaters can captivate your best prospects in your marketing. Connecting the dots. During my freshman year in college, I studied radio, television, and film, dreaming of one day writing for Saturday Night Live. Growing up, I'd made countless home movies with friends, always fascinated by what made some stories unforgettable and others forgettable. Then I took a screenwriting class that changed everything. My professor assigned McKee's story as required reading, and I became obsessed. I started analyzing every movie I'd ever loved through McKee's framework. A group of my friends even started working through the AFI, American Film Institute, Top 100 Movies. Star Wars. Luke's ordinary world gets destroyed. Inciting incident. He trains with Yoda while battling the Empire. Confrontation. Then faces Vader and discovers his true identity. Resolution. Rocky. Small-time boxer gets a shot at the title. Inciting incident. Trains relentlessly while dealing with self-doubt. Confrontation. Goes the distance and proves his worth. Resolution. Top Gun. Hotshot pilot loses his confidence after a tragic accident. Inciting incident. Struggles to regain his edge at Top Gun school. Confrontation. Saves the day in the final dogfight. Resolution. The formula was everywhere. But the real revelation came when my professor showed me that the best stories didn't just follow this structure on the surface. They spoke to something deeper. They articulated feelings and struggles that audiences couldn't quite put into words themselves. When Luke Skywalker stared at the twin suns of Tatooine, yearning for adventure, millions of people thought, "That's exactly how I feel about my life." When Rocky looked in the mirror and saw a bum, countless viewers recognized their own self-doubt. These stories worked because they clarified problems better than the audience could articulate themselves. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about entertainment. This was about connection. This was about understanding. This was about trust. The Two Conversations Framework. Years later, a mentor introduced me to a concept that connected all the dots. I was newly engaged, eager to connect with my fiancée, and I was spending all my extra time on my side hustle, trying to make it my full-time business. So I asked my mentor, "How do I grow my business and be an amazing husband? I haven't done either one yet." My mentor, his name is Dane, sat back and smiled. He thought for a moment before giving me the answer. "There are always two conversations happening at any given time," he explained. "There's the conversation out in the open, the one we're having right now. And then there's the internal conversation, the one happening in your mind right now, at the exact same time. About the conversation out in the open." It wasn't clicking for me. I didn't understand what these two conversations had to do with being a successful entrepreneur and a great husband. My mentor could tell that I need a little more detail, so he continued. "The words that we're exchanging back and forth. This first conversation is where most new husbands focus their attention. What did she just say? How should I respond? And in the same way, it's this first conversation, out in the open, where most struggling entrepreneurs focus. They spend all their time and energy improving their pitch, working on their marketing, refining the message to share with their market. But the second conversation, he leaned forward, that internal conversation, the one going on inside the mind of your wife, inside the mind of your best customers. That is the one to pay attention to. Think about it. When your spouse texts you from work, "We need to talk," there are two conversations happening. Conversation number one, external, "We need to talk." Conversation number two, internal, "What did I do wrong? Are they unhappy with me? Is this about money? The kids? Are they thinking about leaving? How serious is this? Should I be worried?" That internal conversation, those beliefs, those feelings, those unspoken fears, that's what determines how you respond and how the entire conversation unfolds. And the exact same thing happens with your marketing. When you send an email to a new lead about your services, there are two conversations happening. Conversation number one, external. "Here's how me and my team can help you." Conversation number two, internal. "Do they actually understand what I'm going through? Have they dealt with someone in my exact situation before? Can I trust them with this? Are they just trying to sell me something? Or do they genuinely want to help? Is it worth it? Do I have the time for this?" But how do you actually speak to that internal conversation in a way that builds instant trust? The answer: diagnose before you prescribe. And the best way to do that is by actually digging into the biggest problems keeping your best customers awake at night. The doctor's diagnosis principle. Here's a perfect example of this principle in action. Imagine you go to a doctor because you've been feeling tired and achy for weeks. You know something is wrong, but you don't know what. So you're hoping they can shed some light on what might be going on. You schedule an appointment with your family doctor, but decide to book a second consultation with another doc just to be safe and get a different opinion. Dr. A says, "Once you've filled out your paperwork and answered the intake questionnaire, we'll run a few tests to see what's wrong." Dr. B says, "Before we run any tests, can you confirm a couple things for me? Based on what you're describing, I'm guessing you're waking up around 3 a.m. feeling anxious, you're craving carbs in the afternoon, and you probably feel like your brain is in a fog most days. Sound about right? Which doctor do you trust more?" Dr. B, obviously. Not because they've diagnosed you yet, not because they've prescribed a treatment, but because they demonstrated that they understand your problem better than you could articulate it yourself. You hadn't actually thought about it until they said so, but you had been craving carbs more than usual, and you're going on day 3 of waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. with restless thoughts. It was as if Dr. B had been right there beside you the whole time, knowing exactly what was going on. In that moment, you automatically assume they have the solution. This is what it means to trust your gut. Because your gut trusts the expert that best understands your problem. The authority marketing advantage. Traditional advertising interrupts people to get attention. Authority marketing earns attention by providing value first. And value always follows empathy, aka putting yourselves in their shoes. When Dr. B demonstrated understanding of the patient's exact symptoms, they weren't advertising their services. They were demonstrating their authority through empathy. This is the difference between ineffective interruption-based marketing, spammy ads, cold calls, direct mail, and authority-based marketing, valuable content that positions you as the expert. Authority marketing beats traditional advertising 10 times out of 10. Your prospects are already being bombarded with traditional ads. But when you speak to their internal conversation with doctor-like precision, you're not competing with other advertisers. You're establishing yourself as the trusted authority they've been searching for. The most important principle in marketing and sales. Here's the truth that separates amateur marketers from professionals. Get intimately familiar with the conversation going on inside the mind of your best customers, and you'll never run out of qualified leads to sell and serve. When you can articulate your market's problem better than they can, something magical happens. You don't just become another commissioned service provider trying to sell them something. You become the person who gets it. You become the obvious choice. You become the trusted brand they've been searching for. What this means for your content. Every piece of content you create should address both conversations. Surface level, capture their attention. Here's what I can do for you. Deeper level, capture their trust. Here's what I understand about your world that others miss. When your prospect watches your content and thinks, "This person understands my situation better than I do," you've won. Not because you've made the best logical argument, but because you've created an emotional connection based on understanding. And understanding, more than anything else, creates trust. In the next chapter, we'll start building your hook-to-book trademark system with Stage 1, the hook. You'll learn exactly how to create content that stops the scroll and makes prospects think, "Finally, someone who gets it." Because now you understand the secret. The same formula that's captivated billions of moviegoers can captivate your ideal clients. You just need to know how to use it. Part 2. The framework. Before you make the sale, you've got to stop the scroll. Chapter 5. The hook, the 3-second rule that stops the scroll. How to create attention-grabbing content that makes prospects pause and pay attention. The invisible leak in your business. What's the cost of being invisible? How much money are you leaving on the table each and every day? Right now, as you read these very words, your best potential clients are flowing past your business like an underground river just below the surface. You can't see them, you can't count them, but they're there, and every single one that floats by represents money flowing out the door, because no matter how good your service is, how much experience you have, or how desperately someone needs your help, if you can't stop the scroll, you can't make the sale. The Dear Sophie Revolution. In 2011, Google did something that struck a nerve with the masses, something that most of that year's best Hollywood films couldn't. They created a 90-second commercial that made millions of people cry. Not because they talked about email features, not because they explained their technology, not because they offered a discount or free trial, but because they captured people's attention in an instant. And they told a story. The ad opened with a father creating a new Gmail account. You followed each character as he typed out dear.sophie.lee@gmail.com. You continue watching as he begins a new email. Dear Sophie, you arrived. Click. Attach a single photo of a proud new dad holding his baby girl appears in the email. I am still getting the hang of holding you. Click. Send. The hook was immediate and emotional. In just a few seconds, they hit a nerve that every parent in the world could feel. The curiosity gap opened instantly. What is going to happen next? Who will little Sophie become? For the next 90 seconds, you watch Sophie grow up through her father's emails. First birthday, becoming a big sister when her little brother was born, getting sick, family vacations, losing teeth, dance recitals, each email creating a new hook, a new moment you needed to see, until the video started winding down. I can't wait to share these with you one day. Until then, love and dad. By the end, millions of viewers were emotionally invested in this family they'd never met, in a relationship between a father and his firstborn daughter. Google never mentioned storage space, spam filters, or technical features. They simply mastered the hook. And that single ad generated over 100 million views and became one of the most successful campaigns in Google's advertising history. My client's $2 million lesson. But you don't need a Super Bowl budget to master the hook. Let me tell you about Jody. Jody was a wedding photographer with a problem. She was incredibly talented, but she couldn't get clients. All her photographer friends were younger and naturally connected to people getting engaged. Jody was a few years older, married with kids, and her friend group had moved past the wedding phase. "I don't know where to find engaged couples," she told me. "Everyone I know is already married or having babies." "Where do you think engaged couples hang out?" I asked. We brainstormed for a while and landed on the obvious answer: bridal fairs. "Oh no," Jody said. "Those are just meat markets for price shoppers. That's not my ideal client." "But that's where they are," I replied. "You just need to learn how to hook their attention differently than everyone else." Reluctantly, Jody agreed to try one bridal fair. She set up her booth, focused on creating genuine connections instead of competing on price, and ended up booking just a few clients from the event. Nothing that was going to change her life. Just a few clients to get her shot, pun intended. But here's where it gets interesting. Jody did such an amazing job with those few clients that they became her referral engine. Within 2 years, she became one of the most sought-after wedding photographers in the country. All the best wedding planners and venues wanted Jody to work with them and their clients. She photographed celebrities, luxury weddings, and even ended up booking one of the starting all-stars for the Chicago Cubs in 2016, the year they won the World Series. In fact, her clients invited her to Game 5 of the World Series as their personal guest. From struggling to find a single client to photographing million-dollar weddings, all because she tapped in where her ideal clients were already hanging out and because she mastered the art of capturing their attention. Of course, there's a lot more to it than just getting attention, but you can't make the sale, and you'll never get the opportunity to shine if you don't first capture their attention. The wedding world was one weekend away from never experiencing what Jody had to offer. Thankfully for her clients and her family, we don't live in that world, because Jody put in the work to connect with the people she was meant to serve. Limitless lead flow. Think of traffic like a river, a continual flow of people, your best future clients. The river is always flowing. There's never a shortage. Your job isn't to create the river. It's to position yourself in the flow and learn how to catch what you need. Most service business owners make 2 critical mistakes. Mistake number 1, they try to create their own river, building an audience from scratch. Mistake number 2, they stand in the right river but use terrible bait, boring, generic content. The traffic already exists. Your ideal clients are already on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. They're already consuming content, engaging with posts, and buying other people's stuff. You don't need to create attention. You need to capture it. But how? HOOK. M. How to create magnetic content that demands attention. Over the years, I've invested over $100,000 plus into masterminds, coaching, and personal development. Most of the time, the frameworks, templates, and strategies make the investment well worth the price of admission. But there's one thing that always gives me an ROI on these types of investments: the people I meet. Because broke people don't invest in their own growth. Mediocre business owners don't invest in their business. Winners do. Winners with world-class ideas are always inside the masterminds and coaching programs that I invest my time and money into. Just last year, I hired a new coach, and my $9,000 investment paid for itself in less than 15 minutes after meeting Adley. Adley is the woman behind some of the most viral content on the internet. She is personally responsible for billions of views for herself, her creators, and the companies they partner with. And it was during one of our group coaching calls that she opened up and shared the secret to her content success, the recipe she used to fill her wall with gold and silver YouTube play buttons. She told us, "Create an itch in the first 3 seconds that you don't scratch until the last 3 seconds." Boom. It clicked instantly. What Adley shared with our group unlocked something that I had seen in real time over the past decade, but, until that day, I hadn't noticed the pattern. After working with hundreds of clients and seeing thousands of pieces of content across the most successful campaigns, it turned out that every great hook follows the same 4-step formula. H. Hit the nerve. Your opening 3 to 6 seconds must strike a specific pain point or problem to solve. Not a general problem. A specific one that makes your ideal client think, "That's exactly what I'm dealing with." O. Open the curiosity gap. Make them care about what happens next. You've got to give them a reason to keep reading, to keep watching, to stop the scroll. Create a gap between what they know and what they want to know. Shock value alone isn't enough. It must lead somewhere valuable that you can make good on. O. Offer a new possibility. Present a fresh perspective, insight, or idea they haven't considered. This doesn't mean contradicting their beliefs. It means giving them language for something they already feel but couldn't articulate. K. Keep them hooked. The best hooks lead to more hooks. Pay off the curiosity gap you created, but immediately open a new gap that pulls them deeper into your world. Think TV cliffhangers, but with substance. Put first things first. Here's the truth that separates content that converts from content that gets ignored. The difference between sales that scale versus staying invisible. Before you make the sale, you've got to stop the scroll. Every piece of content you create has one job before it can do anything else: catch someone's attention. Before you can educate, you must capture attention. Before you can persuade, you must create curiosity. Before you can convert, you must connect. And connection starts with a hook that makes someone pause and think, "What's this all about?" What this means for your content. Every piece of content you create should start with the HOOK framework. Hit the nerve with your opening line, subject line, or first 3 seconds. Open the curiosity gap immediately after hitting the nerve. Offer a new possibility that reframes their problem or solution. Keep them hooked by creating anticipation for what comes next. Remember, the goal isn't to be shocking for shock's sake. It's got to be genuinely interesting and helpful in a way that demands attention. When someone sees your content and thinks, "I need to see where this goes," you've created a hook. When they can't scroll past without engaging, you've mastered the art. And while the tabloids and TMZ can get away with just stopping the scroll, you've got to take it a step further. Because you can't grow your business unless you keep their attention once you've caught it, which is exactly what we'll cover in the next chapter. The hold. Keep reading, and you'll learn exactly how to turn that initial attention into genuine engagement and move prospects from casual viewers to active participants in your sales process. Because stopping the scroll is just the beginning. Now, you need to prove you're worth their time. Chapter 6. The Hold, Proof of Life Protocol. How to get more people to raise their hand, reach out, and take themselves off the market. The first question that changes everything. What if I told you that a single simple question, shared with your prospect within the first 3 to 5 minutes of them reaching out, could double or triple your revenue? Not getting twice as many leads, not improving your close rate, but by just getting more people to actually respond when you reach out. The airport discovery. Picture this. You're walking through the airport with your spouse, about to go on an incredible island vacation. A trip you've been planning now for over a year. You've already made it through security and have a little time before your flight. Your spouse wants to grab a bottle of water and some snacks, so you duck into a Hudson News. While they head over to a fridge full of Fiji water bottles, seemed appropriate for the destination, you wander over to the book section. A good book would be nice to have for our trip. And you already have something in mind for the kind of book you're looking for. Depending on your interest, you might be looking for a business book to fuel your entrepreneurial mind, or perhaps fiction from your favorite author. As you scan the shelves, most books look remarkably similar. White covers with black text, black covers with white text, neutral beiges and grays, boring titles. Nothing really stands out. But then one book catches your eye. Bright yellow cover that practically jumps off the shelf. The title is intriguing, and it seems like it might be exactly what you're looking for. So you grab it, you flip it over to read the back cover, then open to the table of contents. That's when you discover this book is about Pythagoras, the Greek mathematician and philosopher from 500 BC. Unless you're secretly passionate about ancient geometry, this probably isn't what you had in mind. You put the book back and get back to scanning the other covers when your spouse appears with some snacks, hands you a cold bottle of Fiji water, and you head to your gate empty-handed. The hidden problem most businesses never see. Here's what that airport story reveals about your business. The bright yellow book cover worked perfectly. It stopped your scroll, grabbed your attention, but the moment you opened it and realized it wasn't relevant to what you were looking for, you put it back. The same thing happens to your prospects every single day. Your content hooks their attention. They respond to your ads, visit your website, download your freebie, or fill out your contact form. But then they disappear. Not because your offer isn't good, not because they don't need what you provide, but because you never gave them a reason to engage beyond that initial interest. The universal truth. This principle applies everywhere in life. Netflix doesn't just get you to start watching a show. They engineer the first episode to make you immediately want to watch episode 2. Costco doesn't just put products on shelves. They strategically place sample stations to get you to engage with products you'd never otherwise try. Apple doesn't just make phones. They design the unboxing experience to create an emotional moment that deepens your connection to the brand. The pattern is universal. Capture attention, then immediately convert that attention into engagement. The $73,000 website banner. A couple years ago, I was working with a well-known software company in the digital marketing space. They hired me to help increase revenue. In my research, I realized they had good website traffic and a solid system for getting people to sign up for free trials. But that was it. The only way they were turning visitors into leads was by committing to a full trial. So I created a simple free resource that solved a pressing problem for their market. Then I added a single line of text at the top of their site, inviting visitors to get the free guide. I put the text in one of those skinny, sticky banners at the very top of their website. That was it. A single subtle banner that said, "Get the free ultimate offer blueprint." As soon as we went live, the company started getting 20 to 30 new leads per day from that one little tweak. Every day. And I did the math because this company had also tried out paid ads in the past with an average cost per lead of $10 each. At approximately $10 per lead, if they continued to capture 20 plus leads per day, after the first year, that would be worth at least $73,000 per year in ad spend. In other words, what would have cost them an investment of $73,000, they got absolutely free. Those $73,000 plus worth of leads would be worth even more when they turned into paying customers. And here's the kicker. These were leads that had been flowing right past them all along. The business just hadn't given them a reason to raise their hand. The proof of life protocol. Here's the truth that separates thriving businesses from struggling ones. You don't need more leads, you need more conversations. Your perfect customers are already out there. They're already flowing past your business like that underground river we talked about. Some of them are even raising their hands and expressing interest. But here's where most businesses fail. They confuse interest with engagement. Interest is someone responding to your ad. Engagement is that same someone texting you back right away. Interest is someone filling out your contact form. Engagement is that same someone replying to your email response. Interest gets you their attention. Engagement gets you their trust. And trust is what converts to sales. The two-step protocol. So, how do the most successful service providers, top producers, and entrepreneurs hold attention and engage new leads? They do two simple things, and they do these things on purpose, with every single lead. Step 1. Give them a reason to raise their hand. This is where flytrap offers come in. And if you've never heard that term before, let me share a secret with you. Unlike generic lead magnets that try to appeal to everyone, flytrap offers are laser-focused on one specific problem your ideal client is facing right now. Think single-serving size, like the 2 Advil packet you grab at a gas station when you have a headache. It solves one specific problem in 5 to 10 minutes, and it creates a clear bridge to your larger solution. Successful entrepreneurs understand the specific problems their best buyers are dealing with, and they give them a simple and clear reason to ask for help. For example, if you sell annuities, you could say, "Give me your best email address, and I'll send you my free guide to getting income for life if you don't have any kind of pension and even if you live to 100. Give them a reason to give you their contact information. The best way, offer a resource that explains a specific pain point they have. Step 2. Get them to actually respond. This is where most businesses blow it. They get a lead, someone responds to their ad, or fills out their contact form, or requests a free consult, and they immediately pitch their services or try to book the appointment. Instead, you need what I call the yes-no opener, a simple, casual, low-friction question designed to spark engagement. It must be a yes or no question. It must be easy to answer. And it must feel like the beginning of a conversation, not the start of a sales pitch. Want to see my yes or no opener? Here it is. "Hey Mike, this is Gabriel from Growth Map. I can send you a demo here. Yeah? See how simple and conversational that is? The message is personalized, simple, and clear. I want to make it easy for them to respond. I want to make it easy to start the conversation. I want to make it easy for me to be able to help them. What this means for your business. Stop obsessing over lead quantity. Start obsessing over conversation quality. If you could get just twice as many of your current leads to actually respond and engage, how much would that change your business? My guess? It would change everything. In the next chapter, we'll dive into stage 3 of the hook-to-booked system, the help. You'll learn exactly how to create prospects who convince themselves to buy before you ever make a pitch. Because once you've got their attention and their engagement, it's time to build authority as the go-to solution in their mind, which makes you the obvious choice. Chapter 7. The help, the messaging engine that increases sales velocity. How to create prospects who convince themselves to buy before you ever pitch. Why 95% of qualified prospects never buy, and it's not what you think. Here's what I see in almost every business I work with. They've built a great system for attracting prospects. They've built a great system for closing deals, but they've completely ignored the middle of their funnel. So prospects flow in, the ones who are ready to buy immediately convert, and everyone else leaks out the sides. It's like trying to fill a bucket with holes in it. I call it leaky bucket syndrome. And it's the silent killer of sales. It's the slow leak costing you profits, lots of profits. But the solution isn't a bigger hose, it's fixing the holes. And those holes get fixed with the right message delivered at the right time. Because the right message is exactly what your prospect needs to hear to make you the safe and obvious choice. It's something happening in the invisible space between initial interest and your first sales conversation. Something that's costing you millions in lost revenue every year. In this chapter, we're going to plug those holes. The best small business opportunity in the world. In 1954, Ray Kroc received an order for 8 of his multi-mixers, a machine that could produce 5 milkshakes at the same time. But nobody had ordered 8 multi-mixers before because nobody needed to be able to make that many milkshakes at once. So Ray Kroc decided to personally fly out to San Bernardino, California. He wanted to see firsthand what kind of hamburger stand thought they needed 40 milkshakes being served at a time. What he saw changed everything. On the outside, he saw a hamburger stand run by 2 brothers and a small team of smiling teenagers. But much like Neo seeing the Matrix for the first time, he instantly recognized something remarkable, a system that could produce consistent quality food faster than anyone else in the industry. Who were those 2 brothers? Dick and Mac McDonald. And from that initial meeting, Ray Kroc helped take the McDonald's brothers' single hamburger stand and turn it into the best small business opportunity in the world. But here's what most people don't know about Ray Kroc's genius. He didn't just copy their system. He saw something the brothers missed entirely. While the McDonald brothers were focused on running one really good restaurant, Kroc envisioned something bigger. He realized he could package their system, their processes, their training methods, and their brand into something that could scale infinitely. The brothers were working in their business. Kroc was working on the business. Within a decade, Ray Kroc had turned McDonald's into the largest restaurant chain in the world. Not because he made better burgers, but because he understood the power of leverage. The midnight revelation that changed everything. This reminds me of a conversation I had with a client named Marcus at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. A few of us had gathered at my business partner's property in Middle Tennessee off the Buffalo River. We wanted a few days away from the busyness of our businesses to get above the clouds, mastermind, and set our plan for the new year. We sat around the campfire, smoking cigars, talking about life and business. Marcus ran a successful financial planning practice and was frustrated because he felt like he was constantly chasing prospects who seemed interested but never pulled the trigger. "I'm great in person," he told me. "When I get someone in front of me, I close pretty much all of them. But I can't seem to keep my calendar booked. And when I do, most just no show." I asked him a simple question. What happens between the time someone first responds to your ad and when they book an appointment with you? Long pause. I send them some basic information and try to follow up. I'll call them a couple times a day, and I even have my office admin contact them to try and get them on my calendar. That's when it hit me. Marcus had built a system to find prospects and a system to close them, but he had completely ignored the middle, the part where trust gets built and objections get resolved. He was trying to move people from stranger to customer in one giant leap. Within 90 days of fixing this middle part, Marcus tripled his appointment bookings. Not by getting more leads, not by improving his close rate, but by helping prospects convince themselves to buy before they ever stepped into his office. The Archimedes Principle. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek mathematician Archimedes made a profound observation about leverage. "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I shall move the world." He understood something that most people miss. The right system can amplify human effort exponentially. The 4 levers to scale. Here's what separates successful entrepreneurs from everyone else. They understand that there are exactly 4 types of leverage available to modern business owners. These are the 4 levers you can pull to get more and bigger results from less time and effort. Capital. Money working for you. Investments, paid advertising, real estate. Collaboration. People working for you. Employees, agencies, partners. Code. Technology working for you. Automation, AI, custom apps. Content. Media working for you. Videos, emails, courses, frameworks. The first 2, capital and collaboration, still require additional investment as you scale. More money to make more money, more people to manage more people. But the last 2, code and content, have zero marginal cost. They can scale infinitely without requiring proportional increases in time, money, or effort. This is why the most successful entrepreneurs focus heavily on automation and content creation. They're building systems that work 24/7, 365, even when they're sleeping. How your best buyers' brains work. The universal truth about human psychology. Our brains are biologically programmed to keep us safe. Anything that feels potentially unsafe gets rejected automatically. This served us well when we lived in tribes, when we slept in tents, susceptible to the elements, enemies, and predators. If we sensed something unsafe, our brains would alert us. This kept us alive. And not because it is logical, but because it is neurological. And it's exactly what happens when someone considers buying from you. The moment they start thinking about making a purchase, their brain floods them with protective questions. Can I trust this person? What if this doesn't work? What if I'm making a mistake? Is this the right time? Your job isn't to overcome these objections during a sales call. Your job is to address them before the sales call ever happens. Through stories, through content, through automated systems that build trust while you sleep. That's how you make your service the safe solution in the mind of your market. The leverage principle. I first learned this truth from Naval Ravikant, the author, entrepreneur, and investor behind AngelList, and it transformed how I think about business growth. Naval says, the most successful entrepreneurs are not the smartest or the hardest working. They are the best at using leverage. This isn't about being lazy or looking for shortcuts. It's about being strategic. It's about building systems that can educate, nurture, and pre-qualify prospects automatically. Systems that turn skeptical strangers into educated buyers who arrive at your sales conversations already convinced. Naval taught me about the 4 levers to scale. When I applied them to my marketing and sales, everything changed. When I taught them and helped my clients put the same levers into action in their businesses, the pattern became obvious. There were only a few similarities I noticed among our most successful clients. The same 3 tools, every single one of them used in their marketing. The 3-prong approach. Our most successful clients all use the same 3-prong approach when it comes to following up with leads. After someone raises their hand and becomes a lead, but before you have the opportunity to have a sales conversation and pitch your services, you've got to educate your clients, because educated clients are the best clients. And these are the 3 tools every top producer and successful entrepreneur uses to follow up, nurture, and educate new leads. Automation. Workflows that send emails, text messages, and videos to new leads without any human intervention. AI. AI agents that can follow up with new leads, answer basic questions, and book appointments without sounding like a bot. Human follow-up. Strategic personal touch at high-impact moments. They use code and content to do the heavy lifting. Then, they use collaboration strategically, only where human interaction provides the highest return. Just like what Ray Kroc saw in the McDonald's Brothers system, the biggest winners are those that use technology and media to get more done in less time, and they use personal touch to build trust and connection with their clients. This allows them to engage with 10 times more prospects than their competitors while working fewer hours. That's leverage. What this means for your business. Stop trying to manually nurture every prospect. Start building systems that do the nurturing for you. Create content that addresses the most common objections before prospects even think to ask them. Use automation to deliver the right message at the right time to the right person. And save your personal energy for the conversations that matter most. In the next chapter, we'll dive into Stage 4 of the hook-to-book system, the handoff. You'll learn exactly how to transition educated, pre-qualified prospects into booked appointments that actually show up. Because all the leverage in the world won't help you if you can't convert engaged prospects into paying clients. Chapter 8. The handoff, the triple lock system that guarantees qualified appointments. How to book them, keep them, and prime them to buy before you ever meet. The 73% problem that's killing your calendar. What if I told you that nearly 3 out of 4 all sales appointments are completely worthless? Not because the prospects aren't qualified, not because they don't need what you're selling, but because they show up unprepared, uninformed, and unconvinced that you're the right choice. We know this because studies show that only about 27% of leads are ready to make a buying decision when they first reach out to a service provider. That means 73% of the appointments on your calendar are not ready to buy, at least not just yet. No wonder it feels like so much work to keep new business coming in, because you're making your sales appointments do all the heavy lifting, And during at least 3/4 of those appointments, you've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. But what if we flipped it? What if every single appointment on your calendar showed up already ready to buy? What sort of impact would that have on your life and business? The $1.7 million mistake. In 1985, Steve Jobs made one of the most expensive presentation mistakes in business history. He was pitching the revolutionary Macintosh computer to a room full of skeptical business executives. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Apple needed corporate sales to survive. Jobs walked into that boardroom confident that his brilliant product would sell itself. He had the best technology, the most innovative features, and a computer that would change everything. But he made one critical error. He assumed that because his audience had agreed to the meeting, they were ready to buy. He was wrong. The executives sat stone-faced as Jobs demonstrated the Mac's capabilities. They asked technical questions he couldn't answer. They raised concerns about compatibility he hadn't addressed. They walked away unconvinced, and Apple lost millions in potential enterprise sales. The lesson? Even the most revolutionary product fails when the audience isn't properly prepared. Jobs learned this lesson well, which is why his later presentations became legendary for their careful audience preparation and education. The coffee shop revelation. Sometimes the best ideas show up in the most unassuming places. I was having coffee with my friend Mike, catching up on life, faith, and our kids when the conversation naturally drifted to business. I was sharing some marketing insights we'd been using with our clients, and Mike leaned in. He had left his corporate CEO job in 2020 to go out on his own, and was eager to pick up any marketing tips that might help him get more and better clients. Mike isn't a marketer by trade, and he's not even really a salesperson. He's just a founder with the heart of a teacher. And here's the most important trait I see in Mike. He genuinely cares about every single person that comes into his orbit. And what he shared with me next immediately caught my attention because I knew I had to test it myself. Mike sells to credit union CEOs. Not an easy crowd to impress. He often meets prospects at events and conferences, and whenever he books a new appointment, he does something simple but powerful. As soon as someone books on my calendar, Mike told me, I pull out my phone and record a short video, 30 to 45 seconds tops. What do you say? I asked. Mike responded casually, not realizing how powerful his intuition was. I just tell them I'm excited to meet with them. I share 3 specific questions that I'm going to ask them on our call, so they've got an idea about what we'll talk about. And that's really it. Just a short personal intro. Then I text them that video immediately. Here's the part that blew me away. Gabriel, I get a response 100% of the time. Every single person replies to that text. They appreciate it, it stands out, and it really sets us up for success in those meetings. That's when it hit me. Mike had stumbled upon something most service providers completely miss: the power of personal connection in the moments after booking. He wasn't just confirming appointments, he was priming prospects for success. Within weeks of implementing Mike's approach with our clients, we saw dramatic improvements in both show-up rates and close rates. The secret wasn't complex systems or elaborate sequences. It was the simple act of treating the appointment booking as the beginning of the sales process, rather than waiting for the appointment itself. Because the smartest salespeople are the ones that realize the sales process starts long before the sales call. And they know exactly what to say and what to send to their prospects before the call to make sure they show up primed and ready to buy. By addressing 4 important questions in the mind of their prospects. The 4 closes. Remember the story about Dane, my mentor, who taught me about the two conversations. Dane showed me how to figure out what people actually believe and why that is more important than what they say. And more importantly, he showed me how to speak to that conversation, the story in their head, to better serve and sell. 19 years after Dane first shared that concept with me, and I've seen the pattern over and over again, across hundreds of clients and thousands of their clients. Here's the pattern. Before a prospect decides to buy, you don't have to make one sale. You actually have to make 4. You've got to make sure your prospect is sold on the following. Close number 1, trust you. They must believe you're competent and credible. Close number 2, trust the path. They must believe your process and approach will work. Close number 3, trust your product. They must believe your specific offer is right for them. Close number 4, trust themselves. They must believe they can succeed with your help. Most service providers wait until the sales call to address these 4 closes, but by then, it's too late. The prospect's mind is already made up. They're either convinced or they're not. But if you can start addressing the 4 closes before you make your pitch, your sales will undoubtedly skyrocket. The educational advantage. Here's the principle that will transform your sales process. The best buyers are educated buyers. Statistics show that prospects who consume 20 to 40 minutes of your content before a sales conversation close at dramatically higher rates. That kind of pre-meeting engagement makes something magical happen. But it can't just be any content. It must be strategic content that speaks to the 4 closes. Stories that build trust in you and your expertise. Case studies that demonstrate your path works. Testimonials that showcase your product in action. Success stories that help them trust themselves to succeed. Because once your prospect reads and watches that kind of content, they've already answered their own objections. They've already convinced themselves you understand their problem. They've already seen evidence that your approach works. They trust you. They trust your path. They trust your product. And they trust themselves, which is why they're not coming to be sold, they're coming to buy. The triple lock implementation. Here's the blueprint to booking more meetings and making the most, literally, out of every single appointment on your calendar. Lock number 1, the invitation. Ask permission to help them solve their problem with a soft, consultative approach. Lock number 2, the education. Send automated content that addresses all 4 closes between booking and meeting. Lock number 3, the personalization. Add a human touch with personalized video messages that build connection. Our most successful clients combine automation with personalization. They use systems to deliver consistent education, then add personal video messages that make prospects feel seen and understood. What this means for your business. Stop putting so much pressure on your sales calls. Start priming the pump earlier in the process. The time between, "Yes, I'll meet with you," and the actual meeting is when the real selling happens. Use that time to educate, build trust, and address objections through stories and content. By the time they sit down with you, they should already be convinced you're the right choice. Because if you've gotten them to this point, you've done the hard part. You've captured their attention with a solid hook. You've taken them off the market and held their attention. You've proven that you can help, so they're open to your offer. And you've earned the right to make the handoff, to make your pitch. But it's one thing to know what to do to grow your business, and it's a whole other thing to know how to do it. which is exactly what I'm going to share with you next. In the final section of this book, we'll dive into the step-by-step blueprint, and you'll discover exactly how to implement these strategies at scale so you can focus on serving clients instead of just chasing prospects. Because the goal isn't just to book more appointments, it's to build a system that will build your business. Part 3. The plan. Successful entrepreneurs build the system builds the business. Chapter 9. From solopreneur to systems owner. The $25 million transformation. How professional service providers scale beyond their personal capacity. Why 91% of businesses never break $1 million. What if I told you that the very skill that made you successful is the same thing keeping you trapped? It's the root cause why 91% of small businesses in the United States generate less than $1 million in revenue annually. And it's the same reason about 86% of small business owners don't even take home $100,000 from their business, while a significant chunk, solopreneurs and service providers, make less than $50,000 per year. Yikes! You went into business for freedom, but end up working more hours, dealing with more problems for less pay. Most of the professional service providers I know are incredibly talented at what they do, but talent alone doesn't build businesses. Systems do. The McDonald's Revolution, Part 2. You've already heard how Ray Kroc transformed McDonald's from a single restaurant into a global empire. But here's the part of the story most people miss. Kroc didn't just copy and paste the McDonald Brothers system across America. He systematized the systematization. Let me break it down. He created a turnkey model where each new restaurant owner received detailed operations manuals, training programs, and step-by-step procedures for everything from cooking fries to managing inventory. Within just 7 years, McDonald's went from 8 locations to over 1,000. Not because Kroc found 1,000 amazing burger cooks, but because he built a system that could turn ordinary people into successful restaurant operators. The magic wasn't in the hamburgers, it was in the replicable, scalable system that made the hamburgers. Ray Kroc turned McDonald's into the best small business in the world. He took your average run-of-the-mill hamburger stand and turned it into a predictable, profitable money-printing machine that anyone in the world could operate with a little training. The El Pollo Loco Epiphany. Unlike Ray Kroc, my big epiphany didn't come at a hamburger stand. It came at a fast food burrito shop, where I had a conversation that changed the entire trajectory of my life. I was in my early 20s, recently engaged, and found myself working in a call center, desperate to escape my cubicle and start my own photography business. I arranged to meet with a successful photographer who had built a thriving studio and written several books about the industry. We met at El Pollo Loco because that's all I could afford at the time. As soon as we sat down with our bean, rice, and cheese burritos, I started bombarding him with questions. What's the best way to get my first clients? How should I set up my editing workflow? Which vendors should I use for albums and prints? Should I start an LLC or S-Corp? Where should I do my banking? I had a whole list prepared because I knew his time was precious. He listened patiently, then chuckled. Gabriel, slow down. Those are all great questions. But right now, you just need to do 2 things. I stopped mid-sentence, both curious and relieved. Maybe I was making this more complicated than it needed to be. First, he said, you need to take 100,000 photos this year. Get really good at your craft. Second, you need to read this book. He slid a copy of The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber across the table. That's it? I asked. That's it. I drove straight home and devoured that book in 2 days. It completely changed how I thought about business. The book wasn't about photography. It was about a young woman named Sarah who was incredible at making pies but terrible at running a pie business. Sound familiar? Michael Gerber showed how she transformed her struggling bakery into a thriving enterprise by building systems that could work without her. I saw myself in Sarah and desperately wanted the same outcome. So I immediately hired an e-myth coach and invested in a 12-month program. My wife and I had some heated discussions about whether we could afford it, but she ultimately trusted my judgment. 12 months later, we were making over $100,000 per year in profit from our photography business. It was the first time I'd ever made 6 figures, and it happened because I learned to build systems instead of just taking pictures. The $25 million validation. Fast forward 10 years. I had the opportunity to apply these same systems principles at a digital marketing agency. My friend from church had just started the company and asked me to join him. Over the next 6 years, we served more than 240 clients and grew the business from zero to more than $25 million in annual sales. We made the Inc. 5,000 list of fastest-growing companies 2 years in a row. The secret wasn't that we were smarter or worked harder than our competitors. We built systems that built the business. Systems for client acquisition, project delivery, quality control, and team training. Systems that allowed us to scale without sacrificing quality or burning out our team. Systems that gave us leverage. The physics of leverage. Think about how a nuclear power plant works. A tiny amount of nuclear fuel creates an enormous amount of energy through a controlled chain reaction. The power doesn't come from the fuel itself. It comes from the system that amplifies and harnesses that energy. A tiny input with a massive output. The system builder's creed. Here's the principle that separates business owners from freelancers. Successful entrepreneurs build the system. The system builds the business. When you are the system, your business can't grow beyond your personal capacity. When you build systems, your business can grow beyond your wildest dreams. There's a critical moment in every entrepreneur's journey where they must choose. Do I want to stay skilled and small, or do I want to build something bigger than myself? The 3 stages of business evolution. Stage 1, the technician. You are the business. Everything flows through you. Growth is limited by your personal capacity. Stage 2, the manager. You start building processes and hiring help. Growth happens, but you're still the bottleneck for most decisions. Stage 3, the systems owner. Your business runs through proven systems. You work on the business, not in it. Growth becomes exponential. Most professional service providers get stuck in stage 1 or 2. They're incredibly talented, but they've never learned to think like a systems builder. What this means for your business. You now understand the hook-to-booked framework. You know the principles that drive successful marketing and sales. But knowledge without implementation is just expensive entertainment. The question isn't whether these strategies work. The question is whether you'll build the systems to implement them consistently. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the step-by-step roadmap for turning everything you've learned into a profitable, scalable system. Because it's one thing to understand the framework. It's another thing entirely to build the machine that implements it flawlessly, day after day, week after week. That's where the real transformation happens. Chapter 10. The Hook-to-Booked Implementation Roadmap. Your step-by-step plan to automate where attention flows so you can systematize where sales go. Why most people build their business backwards and how to get it right. Most entrepreneurs start with the wrong system first. They perfect their sales process while ignoring their marketing. They obsess over their product while their pipeline stays empty. Have you ever heard this quote, "If you build it, they will come"? The famous line is often misquoted from the 1989 cinematic masterpiece, Field of Dreams. Originally, the movie quote is actually, "If you build it, he will come." The protagonist, an Iowa farmer, played by Kevin Costner, hears a mysterious voice whispering and reverberating through his cornfield. The voice ultimately inspires him to build a baseball field in the middle of his farm in order to attract the ghosts of some of the most iconic baseball players of all time, including his own father. But your business is not the movies. You are not a farmer in the middle of Iowa. And while your product is absolutely important, simply building an incredible product, a remarkable service offering, is not enough to attract a consistent flow of your best buyers. After working with hundreds of businesses across multiple industries and generating over $50 million in sales, I've discovered the real reason most entrepreneurs stay stuck. They try to fix everything at once instead of identifying and eliminating their biggest bottleneck. They either spread their focus too thin, aka shiny object syndrome, or they simply pick the wrong thing to focus on solving. They have too many priorities, or the wrong priority. Henry Ford's greatest discovery, and it's not the assembly line. Henry Ford's genius wasn't just creating the assembly line. It wasn't just kicking off the Second Industrial Revolution. And it wasn't just his impact on introducing a new world of mass production and mass consumption. It was understanding the theory of constraints. Before Ford, manufacturing was chaos because nobody understood bottlenecks. If one worker was slow at installing wheels, it didn't matter how fast everyone else worked. The entire production line was limited by the slowest worker. Ford revolutionized manufacturing by identifying the constraint and systematically removing it. When he fixed one bottleneck, a new one would appear somewhere else in the line. So he'd fix that one too. This process of continuous constraint elimination is what transformed Ford from a small car company into an industrial empire. Ford understood a fundamental truth. A system is only as strong as its weakest link. The 100K deal that cracked the code. At Strike Point Media, we'd hit a ceiling at $3 million in annual sales. We'd tried everything, raised our minimums from $5,000 to $10,000, hired more team, worked longer hours, even made some changes to our business model that we thought would scale up better. Nothing moved the needle. That's when my CEO, Jeremy, cast an impossible vision. We're going to close $100,000 deals. Monthly retainers, not one-time projects. Initially, I was taken aback. It seemed insurmountable. But Jeremy was right. If we could take the same number of clients and deliver 10 times the value, we could charge more and make a lot more for the same amount of work. And I'd make a lot more money in the process. So I got to work. I reached out to a financial publishing company in Baltimore that was part of the Agora financial family. I'd been chasing them for months and knew they were spending hundreds of thousands on advertising. After getting resistance to our pricing, I asked them a single question. Fast forward 90 days. You spend $100,000 with us. What's true 90 days from now for you to be ecstatic? Their team lead paused to really consider. If we hit our $250 cost per acquisition target, we would be ecstatic. I went out on a limb. Give me $100,000 today, and I'll guarantee that 250 CPA. When we hit it, you double the budget. That work for you? Within an hour, I had the insertion order. Within a month, my team delivered 400 customers, and the client doubled their budget. We did it again the next month. That's when it hit me. The fastest way to grow any business is to find the bottleneck and eliminate it. Our bottleneck wasn't capacity. It wasn't the right people. It was who we were selling to. Within 24 months, $3 million to $7 million. At $7 million, a new constraint showed up: our ability to fulfill faster with the same level of quality. But this time, we knew what to do. Focus on the bottleneck. We eliminated the constraint with a single deal. Another 24 months, $25 million annually, and a pair of Inc. 5000 fastest growing company. We had discovered the cheat code. The garden hose principle. Think of your business like water flowing through a garden hose. No matter how much water pressure you have at the source, the flow is always limited by the narrowest point in the hose. You could increase the water pressure, upgrade the spigot, or even add a second hose. But if there's a kink in the middle, none of that matters. The three-system business model. Regardless of your business, there are only three systems that matter. 1. Marketing system, how you capture attention. 2. Sales system, how you convert attention into revenue. 3. Product system, how you deliver on your promises. When all three work flawlessly and feed into each other, you create what I call a business flywheel. Great marketing increases visibility and generates leads for sales. Great sales enrolls more of the right people and sets expectations for success. Great product delivery creates testimonials that fuel marketing. And thus, the flywheel spins. Faster and faster, the more attention you capture with your marketing. But here's the key. When you have multiple bottlenecks, you always have many problems and opportunities that you could focus on. Fix the one closest to the top of the system first. Marketing comes before sales. Sales comes before product. Start closes to the spigot, the point of entry into your business. The growth map model trademark. Here's the systematic approach I use with every client to turn strangers into customers. Step 1. Attention system. How do you get increased visibility and capture attention? Step 2. Lead generation system. How do you convert attention into contact information? Step 3. A. New lead fast track. For the 3% ready to buy immediately, remove all friction to get them into your sales process. Step 3B. New lead nurture. For the 97% who need time, systematic education until their pain peaks. Step 4. Sales system. How you help prospects make buying decisions and enroll in your services. The beauty of this model is that it shows you exactly where to focus your improvement efforts. The anatomy of a system. But you might be wondering what I mean when I use the word system. Remember the E-Myth Revisited? The book that started me down this whole path over 20 years ago. In that book, Michael Gerber defines the idea of a system perfectly. A set of things, actions, and info that interact with each other, and in so doing, alter other systems. The McDonald's brothers' Speedy Stations was a system made up of systems. The grill was a system. The fry station was a system. The cashier was a system. And they all worked together, like the growth map model trademark, to create 100+ happy customers per hour when all of their competitors maxed out at no more than 20. Michael Gerber proves the system is the solution. So when I talk about building a system, here's what I actually mean. Assembling a specific set of components, things, actions, ideas, and information that make your marketing, sales, and product run the best they possibly can. And as a result, you end up with more clients, happier clients, and a lot more profit in your pocket. So what exactly goes into a system? Every effective system has exactly 3 components: content, the messages, videos, emails, landing pages, and media that communicate your value. Code, the automation that makes things happen without human intervention. Workflows, AI agents, reminders. Collaboration, the human processes, SOPs, and playbooks that ensure consistent execution. Think of McDonald's. The content is the food and branding. The code is the equipment and standard operating procedures. And collaboration is the people and management processes. All 3 must work together to create a true system. The Constraint Elimination Principle. Here's the truth that will transform how you approach business growth. Fix the bottleneck, not the symptom. Then prepare to find the next one. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a continuous process of identifying constraints and systematically removing them. As your business grows, new bottlenecks will appear. That's not a problem. It's progress. The notorious Big made famous the phrase "mo money, mo problems," but I say, more problems equals more money. Because the better and faster you get at identifying the problem, aka the bottleneck or constraint, the faster you grow your business. What this means for you and your company. Stop trying to improve everything at once. Start by identifying your biggest constraint. Is it generating enough attention? Converting attention into leads? Nurturing leads until they're ready to buy? Or closing the sale itself? Focus exclusively on that one bottleneck until it's no longer the limiting factor. Then find the next constraint and eliminate it. This is how you create sustainable, predictable growth. In the final chapter, we'll address the most important question: where to start? Because understanding the roadmap is just the beginning. Taking the right decisive action is where the real transformation happens. Conclusion. Where do we go from here? Congratulations. You've just learned a complete system that can transform your business forever. You understand the hook-to-booked framework that turns strangers into qualified, ready-to-buy clients. You know the principles that separate struggling service providers from those who build thriving, scalable businesses. Most importantly, you've discovered that success isn't about working harder. It's about building systems that work for you. But here's what separates the 5% who actually implement from the 95% who just consume information. They take immediate action. If you want to stop chasing prospects and start having qualified clients chase you, then consider registering for my next Hook-to-Booked workshop. With it, you'll get the complete implementation blueprint, proven templates, and step-by-step guidance that will help you build your automated client acquisition system in less than 30 days. And the best part? You'll leave with everything you need to implement immediately. No more guessing. No more overwhelm. Just a clear path to predictable growth. Ready to automate where attention flows so you can systematize where sales go? Reserve your seat at https://hooktobooked.com/workshop. The choice is yours. You can close this book and hope things get better on their own. Or you can take the next step and build the business you've always dreamed of. I'll see you at the workshop. Remember at the beginning of this book when I shared the story about moving my family from Bend, Oregon to Las Vegas, Nevada, back to Bend, Oregon, and finally to Nashville, Tennessee, all in less than 90 days. There's a massive lesson I learned through that experience, one that I'm forever grateful for, but hope I never have to go through something like that again to learn. If something isn't worth the next 10 years of your life, it's not worth 10 minutes of your attention. Sitting in that Build-A-Bear parking lot on my daughter's 6th birthday, I was faced with a decision. I could keep doing what I was already doing, even though I didn't like the results I was getting. Or I could make a change. It's tempting to do nothing, to stay comfortable, to convince yourself that things will somehow magically improve if you keep doing the same thing. But here's what I've learned. The people who take decisive action when they know something needs to change, they are the ones who deserve the rewards that follow. In that moment, sitting in the parking lot with my family inside celebrating, I made the decision to get help. I called my friend Matt for perspective. I reached out to my coach, a guy with gray hairs, wisdom, and the kind of life I hoped to build. But I didn't just take ideas and talk about what I could do. I got into motion. I took decisive action. That day, not the next day, not a week later. That day, I walked into Build-A-Bear and told my wife my decision. We spent the afternoon celebrating our daughter's birthday. Then that night, I packed our entire house, loaded up the truck and U-Haul, and hit the road. Fast forward 4 years later, and it was the best decision I'd ever made. When I ask our kids about their favorite place to live, Southern California, Central Oregon, or Tennessee, they resoundingly say Tennessee. They talk about their friends, the community, their school, the life they have here, none of which they would have if I hadn't taken action. As entrepreneurs, we're so tied to our businesses that it's often difficult to distinguish between ourselves and what we've built. But you only get one life, so you might as well make it count. Obviously, I would love to connect and help you build the business you've always dreamed of. But if now's not the right time, that's okay too. All I ask is this. Do something. Take some sort of action, some sort of step forward. Ask yourself, what's worth the next 10 years of my life? Because once you find that answer, life gets a whole lot better. Ready to transform your business and your life? Reserve your seat at hooktobooked.com/workshop and take the first step toward the business you've always dreamed of. Let's build your system.